Strap on your helmets and rev up your engines for Wheel People with Ed Lamberton. 2 hours of local dirt track racing. Ed Lamberton touches on local racing in and around the area. Wheel People is brought to you by Four Corner Tire, Elmo's Auto Body, Sampson Motor Car, Tanner's Lumber, and Adirondack Harley Davidson, where the mountain meets the road. Now, with your racing news, fast, Ed Lamberton. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Sampson Motor Car, Amsterdam, New York. Four Corner Tire, Elmo Speed and Supply, Fonda Speedway Memories Facebook pages, Adirondack Harley Davidson, where the mountain meets the road, and Dairy Frost. Thank you for tuning in to Wheel People with Ed Lamberton. Now back to our show.
And a good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Monday night edition of Wheel People. I'm your host, Ed Lamberton, and for the next couple of hours, we'll be talking about the great sport of auto racing here in the great Northeast. And I don't even have my headset on. That's why it sounds
I'll
weird.
get it for you.
That's fine. And tonight we have another jam-packed show. My gosh, I never had so much trouble trying to figure out what I was going to do tonight. There was so many options here, and we will get back to those people that I really want to chat with and share their big wins this past weekend. Of course, Chad Edwards picking up his first win of the season with a Tommy Spencer on number 37 at the Fonda Speedway in the Sportsman Division. And Josh Coonrod. Josh and I have been going back on texting back and forth for, I think, about a month now. And every time we think we got things lined up, something goes awry. This week, I just didn't have time on the schedule to get to him, but we will. Congratulations to Josh and his whole team. Had a crazy week. Got wrecked while leading on Tuesday night last week at the tribute race. Thought he was done for the season maybe because he overheated the car, but got a motor, I believe, donated or borrowed one to get through this past week, and had a great weekend picking up his first win in the Pro Stocks at Fonda Speedway. So congratulations to Josh Coonrod on that event. Now he's won at Albany Saratoga and Fonda this season already. A couple at Albany Saratoga. Looked like he was down for one more on Tuesday night until he got turned around there as some aggressive racing going on. And just a lot of interesting stories. Of course, some great runs for some guys who needed great runs, and that was a big story on the weekend. Of course, one of the biggest stories, and one of the reasons why we added him to our guest list tonight, Demetrius Drelos, of course, who a lot of folks have seen over at Albany Saratoga in the past couple of seasons, and certainly down at Lebanon Valley Speedway in the small block division. And Demetrius has moved into big block competition at Albany Saratoga and at the Fonda Speedway, driving for the Nelson Racing team. And we hope to have the complete Nelson Racing team on throughout the interview with Demetrius and find out how that all came together. And it was a one of those nights. We've had some tremendous racing when it hasn't rained at pretty much all the area speedways. And Saturday and Friday night were certainly no different. And Saturday night at Fonda Speedway, it looked like defending champion Tim Fuller was going to have his way with the field as he closed in and took the lead with just 5 or 6 laps to go. And lo and behold, Tim broke the motor and handed the lead back to Darwin Green, who has had just a horrendous season and looked to be on his way possibly to his first win of the year. But we all know Darwin, and he just loves to go fast and doesn't want to lift ever, and that kind of cost him a little bit, I think, on Saturday night as he buzzed the tires off and ran out of tires on those last 5 or 6 laps at Fonda Speedway in the feature. And Demetrius, who was in the top 5 most of the evening, better than halfway through, all of a sudden was able to find a line and get by on a restart with just a couple laps remaining, able to get by Jeremy Weiler, a multi-time feature winner at Fonda Speedway, in a tremendous move. And the kid's the real deal, and a very smart racer for the D for the W on Saturday night. So we'll be talking to Demetrius Drelos, and of course all of us old timers are well familiar with the Drelos family, of course, who have been involved, going back to the 50s and 60s at Fonda with Demetrius' grandfather, and we'll talk about him, about the legacy that he brings to Fonda. He was a great addition to Fonda this year, and I don't know if anybody, myself included, thought that they would be able to pick off a win, certainly this early in the season, but Demetrius had been at Fonda several different times over the past couple of seasons as he's starting his career. But with that, I don't know, is that mine? My phone? It must be. I don't know, I lost it somewhere. Anyway, Demetrius doing a great and tremendous job for, okay, just double checking here. We have Demetrius at 8. Of course, coming up first in our interview session will be Kim Duell, who Kim and I go way back, and we always talk about it, and someday we'll nail it down for sure. But we kind of think he might have been maybe one of my first, if not the first, actually live on air guest going back, and neither one of us will tell you how long ago that was. But Kim picked up his 50th career win last Tuesday night in the Tribute in the Pro Stock division, and so we just had to get a hold of Kim and talk a little bit of Pro Stock racing and all the other racing that he's done over the years, but has really found a niche and builds his own cars and is still having fun all these years later, and he doesn't look that much older. But Kim Duell will be with us first up, and then Demetrius. And then, as we checked in with the Jersey Jet Brett Hearn on Tuesday night, and there was a little scheduling snafu there. We ran extremely long. Well, we had a great time with Super CD Koval talking about his racing career, and ran out of time to get with Brett, talk a little bit about his big show coming up just around the corner, another week over at the Albany-Saratoga Speedway, the Super Nerd Series event, carrying a $10,000 to win prize, plus many other things, and we'll talk to Brett about that and about other things, as Brett now over 900 wins and counting, and counted one a week ago, Friday night at the Albany-Saratoga Speedway. So it's always great to have the Jersey Jet on, and looking forward to talking to Brett about the big show, and also just some of his comments about what he thinks is going on in the racing community. Certainly he's been around for a while now, and has made a living out of it, and not too many people can say they've done that, and he's done it very successfully, so hopefully he will be. Okay. All right. Well, everybody was looking for Kim because we hit the lane a little late here, but Kim's supposed to give us a ring about 7:30, so he's taking his beauty nap, and he will be with us very, very shortly. But before we get to Kim and Demetrius and Brett Hearn, we'll talk a little bit about some of the racing that went on this last week. I know everybody knows the results, but we're here for more than that, hopefully, to give you a little insight. Matt Shepard's another one. We had talked to Matt after his win on Tuesday night at the tribute race. Kind of a little reprieve for him as he got beat on the last lap by Tim McCready in the season opener at Albany Saratoga. So Matt thought he'd come back, and actually was up in the air about coming back to Albany Saratoga on Tuesday, but of course his dad, and he grew up in the sport, had a lot of respect for Jack Johnson and C.D. Koval, and felt as though it just only be proper for him to come. And certainly the $6,000 was a factor as well. And he came, and he saw, and he got it. The $6,000, that is. And showing a little smoke at the end of the event, everybody said, "Oh my God, he's going to blow up." He did not. He was not blowing up. I talked to Matt after the event, and he said he thinks he broke an oil line. He could smell burning oil in the car, and his oil gauge is popping back and forth just a little bit with just a couple laps to go. If that had happened halfway through, he would have definitely pulled off. Anybody that knows Matt Shepard, he is an intelligent racer. He does it for a living, and he certainly wouldn't have stayed out there and possibly ruined a expensive motor for $6,000. He would have pulled it in, especially it wasn't a points. He had nothing to gain, and so he did not talk to him this week since then, but I'm sure that things weren't as drastic as it may have looked. It did look that second place finisher Kenny Tremont was closing the gap towards the end, so we don't know if didn't ask Matt Shepard if he was backing off a little bit when the oil light started blinking at him. But Tremont was the only one that could keep Shepard anywhere near in sight on Tuesday night, finishing third with the tribute car that was painted up by good friend Custom Bob, just like he did many moon ago for C.D. Koval, and the Hauser number 61, the white one. Finishing up in third with Stuart Friesen behind the controls, and Stewie a little disappointed. The car wasn't quite where he wanted it to be on Tuesday night, but he'll take a third place finish. Danny Varon having a strong run, starting up in the front and staying there all night long, finishing in fourth, and at one point thought he might have had a shot to catch Shepard. But again, just off a little bit on the slick tracks, he says. Eric Rudolph, don't get to see this kid very much on this end of the state. But let me tell you what, and I don't even have to tell you. All you have to do is look at the results. This kid is for real. He is kind of doesn't maybe get a lot of the credit that Matt Shepard and Stuart Friesen are getting right now. Obviously, Stuart having a disappointing night with the trucks, again winning the second stage and then having a little jingle and finishing ninth on Friday or Saturday night. Hopefully, Saturday afternoon actually. Hopefully, he's been there the last several weeks. Actually, he's been there all his season, but certainly since he's gotten one of the good cars or one of the good trucks, I'll leave that where it may. He has been that close to win, and it's going to happen very soon, but not to be. But Eric Rudolph has got no, I don't know. Shepard's got 16 wins, I believe, now so far this year already. Rudolph has a double digits, I believe. He's up in the 10th range, but great to see him down here, and then we got to see a little bit of Eric Rudolph. We'll see him again. Certainly, he'll be down here for the tribute because he is running the series, so we'll see him in a week, another week down at Albany Saratoga again. Matt DiLorenzo coming home with a top 10 finish on Tuesday, and then backing that up with a big win on Friday night. And Matt was another one, so we had Matt Shepard as a possibility for tonight, and Matt DiLorenzo as well, and wanted to really do them both, but these other guys doing a well 50th win. We got to stay with that one. And Demetrius with his first win. And of course, Brett, we owe him one from last week. So that's how tonight's show worked out. But we will get Matt DiLorenzo and Matt Shepard, a pair of Matts. Maybe we could do that as a show zinger here. The pair of Matts, possibly in a week or so. Jeremy Weiler, Mark Johnson, Brian Crummell, another outsider. Good to see him. So we had... I don't know if you can't call Stuart Friesen an outsider, I guess, because he ran Albany Saratoga as a regular, but certainly Matt Shepard is not there every week. Danny Varon is not there every week. Eric Rudolph's not that very week. So the outsiders did very well with Brian Crummell, three or four out of the top 5 or 10 in the top 10 in the Tribute. And as we said on Tuesday, the Pro Sox, our guest here in just a few moments, Kim Duell picking up the win. Norm Loblier and Dan Older, Matt Roberts, and Brian Westcott in a wild and woolly, I guess is the best way to put that, Pro Stock race. And we'll talk to Kim about that a little bit. The Pro Stocks have been a little drama drawn in the last several seasons at Albany Saratoga from time to time, up and down, and things that seem to come down a little bit, but the boys are getting, well, even though we haven't had a lot of races, it's almost the middle of the season, and a lot of guys saying, hell, I should have won by now, and I'm going to try a little harder. And as they try a little harder, that's when things have some complications. So we'll see how things all pan out here on Friday night over at the Great Race Place, as Pro Stocks and everybody else will be back in action over at the Great Race Place. Then, as we said, on Friday night, Matty D picking up the win over at Albany Saratoga. Jesse Mueller and Matty D and Jesse and Bobby Hackle as well, as they usually do. Matt has been from time to time a bottom feeder, but winging it around the top. The top was a place to be on Friday night. And Matty D knows how to ride the rim at Albany Saratoga and picked up his first win of the season and his first in a year. Hadn't realized it, but he had mentioned it, that he took a vacation from Victory Lane last season over to Albany Saratoga. Hard to believe. Mark Johnson, who is ever so slowly getting to the front each and every week, the 2-year-ago champion. Mark Johnson finishing up in 3rd. Ronnie Johnson was 4th, and Ronnie having a great season so far at both Albany Saratoga and top 5 finishes, and at the High Banks, Lebanon Valley. Bobby Hackle, Jack Lanier, the youngster, another youngster who is really starting to come on to his own. Lanier is finishing in the top 10 and crowding close to the top 5 on his venture into the big block division. So great to see that. Bodie Bellinger, another youngster who's been running with the big blocks a couple of seasons now. So we're seeing a changing of the guard here. A lot of young, new guys. Mueller, of course, making strides here. And, everybody wonders what's going to happen when some of the older drivers retire, like Brett Hearn and a few others, and Danny Tremont and that. So both of them are still winning, so don't look for them to retire soon. But it's great to see the younger generation coming along and getting some good finishes. In the sportsman division, another guy that we have to get on the show is Jason Gray, the Vermonster, picking up his second. He won a year or so ago in the sportsman division, pick up his second win after struggling through earlier part of the season. Daryl Nutting was second. Robert Bluback, Tim Hartman Jr., who started 20-something or other. I think his number is 22. He might have started back there, 20, maybe farther back. But was really coming and finished up in the 4th spot on Friday night. And Jack Spishak rounding out the top 5 in sportsman. Limited sportsman went to Stephen Neer. And the Pro Stocks went to Ed Tompkins. Ed Tompkins has been out of Victory Lane for a while. I think 5 years or something like that. Probably some of you know about that. But Jason Corbin finishing up in the runner-up spot. Brandon Eming was third, Chucky Dembluski fourth, and Dean Charbonneau rounding out the top five. And Tuesday night's winner, Kim Duell, finishing in sixth, and we'll ask him what happened. Just a few moments. Street Stocks, Randy Miller, again and again and again, and he just keeps on winning. Actually, he didn't win the regular feature. That was the carried over feature. I believe he has 4 now. Had to settle for third behind David Cook and John Filarecki on Friday night. So busy week over at Albany Saratoga. It'll be another busy week coming up next week when the big show comes to town on Tuesday night. Again, another Tuesday night run over to the Great Race Place. On the Lebanon Valley side. Oh, that's not good. Oh, hang on just a second. Hello, I'm on the air. Yes. Oh, yep, I did forget that. If you can send somebody up, it's in a truck. You know where it is? Yep. Okay. Bye. Okay. Problems that we have from time to time. Okay. Sorry about that. You gotta run a business and do it all at the same time. Okay. Lebanon Valley was Kyle Armstrong picking up the win. Andy Bacchetti coming home in the runner-up spot. And it's been a while for Kyle as well. So it's been a great year for a lot of first-time winners and guys that haven't won for a while. So it's been a nice season, even though we haven't had a lot of races, to see some of these new guys or older guys that haven't won a lot picking up wins. Kyle Sheldon was fourth. Colby Schroeder was fifth. In the small blocks, once again, it was Ken Tremont Jr. is finally getting things back together after blowing up the motor a couple of weeks ago. It's 1-2 now. J.R. Hefner was second. Dylan Stuhler third. Frank Harbor fourth, and Alan Hoteling rounding out the top five. In the sportsman is Chris Lynch over Whitey Slavin and Ted Teal. And Pro Stocks went to Rob Yetman, and that was a big one. A special Pro Stock event for the guys, and a big check went to Rob Yetman. So good for Rob, Jason Casey, Nick Arnold. And Casey's been having a great season so far at Lebanon Valley, coming back to home after a few years off on the road. And I believe Jason is leading the points right now. Yetman is getting a little closer again after having some issues earlier on. Alrighty. And one of the other fellows that we definitely have to get on the show is Brian Borst, who picked up his first win in a while. Yeah, how about 1999 was the last win for Brian Borst until a week ago, Saturday night. Of course, he had some issues on Saturday himself, and did not end up where he wanted to, that's for sure. But had a chat with him, and we will definitely get Brian Borst. And it's kind of neat to talk to somebody who's been out of the sport for so long, come back and been successful, and got a little change in his crew, and we'll talk about that when we talk with him as well. He brought some of his girls to help him, so he has a not an all-girl pit crew, but getting pretty close, and it's a good thing, because you need to get young kids involved, and it's great to see some females in the pits working on race cars. Of course, Fonda is the home of Jessica Zemkin, who has come back home and in the modifieds, and still working on figuring the modifieds out, but she'll get it, that's for sure. And it's just on 7:30 here, and of course at Fonda on Saturday night, as we said, we'll talk to the winner in the modified division, Demetrius Drelos, in a great, exciting race again at Fonda each and every week. Like I say, it looked early on like Darwin Green was going to be gone. He ran away from the field, but as the laps wound down, as it's been so much lately.
This call is being recorded.
at the Honda Speedway that the latter laps, we see guys like Fuller and Bobby Varon, and well, Josh Hollenforth has been up front. Actually, Saturday night was the first night he hadn't been up there, and I just got a little inkling of talking to different folks that some guys may have been trying a little bit of different tire strategy on Honda on Saturday because of the tire wear there, and I think maybe that's what caught a few of the top guys off a little. Certainly Fuller wasn't off, but his motor was not up for the deal. He'll be back next Saturday, that's for sure. Okay, I heard the little chime in the background. That means we have our first guest of the evening, and I'm going to cheat and put my headset on so I can make sure I can hear him better. Kim, first off, congratulations. 50. Did you, when you and I started way back when, I don't know if you ever thought 50 wins, no matter how many different classes it was, would ever come your way. I mean, you always hope to win a lot of races, but it was a while coming. It's been a few years. When did you basically, you said the first, let's see, now you started in the street stocks?
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, Ed. And, yeah, 50 was a goal that I really never counted on reaching. You know, I love the sport, and we're there like clockwork pretty much, my family and me, and we keep stroking along here. And the more I thought about the 50 number, the worse it got as far as trying to get it. And I finally just put it out of my head. And I said, you know what, just go racing and have fun with it. And it just kind of fell into our lap there last Tuesday night. And it happened on a good night. It was an extra payoff, and we used it to pay a couple bills. But yeah, I did. I started in the what they called the six-cylinder hobby class way back in I guess it was 1977.
Okay.
And my first car was a 1964 Chevelle that my good friend Mike Paquin, whose name is synonymous with racing over the years, and Mike, I helped Mike as a kid, and Mike kind of took me under his wing there for quite a long time, and actually purchased a car from Jack Cottrell. It was just a chassis that somebody had. Mike needed some parts off it, and he gave me the frame and basically bought it for me. And that's how I met the Cottrell family. And I was basically 15 years old, and we put that thing together. And another name from back in those days was Mark Older. Mark's passed away now. He's Danny Older and Darrell Older's brother, Byron Westcott's brother-in-law. Mark passed away a couple of years ago. He's fought heart disease forever, and he went a long time past where they actually expected him to. But Mark was a big driving force for me way back then. He gave me a lot of pieces and parts, and he helped me out a lot, taught me many, many things. And that's where it all started for me, and I was hooked immediately. I knew, you know, the first race I ever attended that I was going to do that. And but we put that old car together, and the rest was history, and we're still at it.
Now, as a lot of guys, and I'm not sure, so I don't want to get you in trouble, but did you? Obviously, your whole family, as you said, is with you each and every week. Your wife, of course, and your two daughters, and you know, they've become involved in the sport in different ways. And yes, we'll apologize for we did see your good morning wake-up call that you have a little hacking cough here that you're trying to get rid of, and I see you got lots of medication, lots of medication information you got this morning. So
oh yeah, I did, and I went out and did it too.
All right,
I bought the stuff I needed. So
all right, so we're going to preface all of this with you're under heavy medication, so anything you say will not be held against you at this point.
Yeah, right. That's a good excuse. Sure, thanks.
But where I was going with this whole thing, back around again. Did you meet your wife at the races, or was she a race fan and just kind of came in the pits and said, "Hi, I'm"?
Well, no, not exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Of course, you know, Scott and Diana, my older two children, they are obviously Scott races, and
Yep.
Diana is just a few years behind him in age, and they were from my first marriage and high school sweetheart, and we went, we were kids, we went 9 years, and
Yep.
we did pretty good considering how young we were, but we're best friends now, and
Yep.
we've grown, and the family's actually, she's part of the family basically, and I met Denise through work.
Okay.
We both worked at car dealership up on
I'll get
50
even later.
New Country Auto Park.
Did she
And
get?
I was a tech, and she worked as an office manager, and that's where I met her.
Okay. All right. And I said I just want because I know that Denise is a huge part of your racing team now, as you say, the whole family. So it's great to see something that you like to do come out so successful. Now, on that point, other than the fact that congratulations again on 50 wins, wow, that's pretty impressed. I don't if you're a stats guy. I know we were talking last week with CD Koval, and he said he's not a stats guy and he doesn't remember where he won, or well, he remembers the wins at different racetracks, but how many he's got and where they were at and all that stuff. But have you broken this down to the modifieds, the pro stocks, where I would suspect, and maybe it was even in that piece that Tom Badji did, I'm not sure, that the majority of these wins were in the pro stock division or not?
They're kind of split, actually.
Okay.
When I ran back in the old hobby six-cylinder days,
Yep.
that was a class where it really wasn't a street stock. We were allowed to run the big tires, and we were running inline six-cylinders, and we could hop them up pretty good. I mean, there was rules, but there was, there was a lot of open things we could do, and everybody was doing them. And Mikey Rocco was the first one to show up with something that had some serious power and for a six-cylinder, and really could get the thing around the track. And so he was our driving force to build something better and to get on the horse and try to compete with him. And he did, or we did, I should say. And I was able to, in 1982, I broke his 7-in-a-row win streak he had going at Malta. Excuse me. And we had WGNA as a sponsor, and I basically, that's how I met John Stanley. Put a package together, and was as professional as we could at the time, and the owner of WGNA was pretty impressed that we went and pitched it, and we got a pretty major sponsor for that division at the time.
Right.
And we were able to be real competitive, and started winning some races in that division. I had a few going into that 82 year. I mean, between 79 and 80, we had a few wins. And actually won the championship in 79 with only one feature win at Albany, Saratoga, and we were just very consistent. We were always in the top 5, and that was an old 68 Camaro. But that division was very much like the pro stocks are of today. We're not, of course, they weren't as fast, but
right.
They were basically above what the street stocks were then, and with less power, but we went faster because we were allowed bigger tires and a little more suspension stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there was a couple times they combined us up to Devil's Bowl, and six-cylinder hobby cars were usually the ones that were up front. The good ones were, anyways, the guys that had some time invested.
Right.
But so, I mean, Andy Hickok is my statistician, one of my best friends and childhood friend. He's the one that had all the numbers and came up with the wins. He's got every one of them basically documented, and we got, I believe that was 22 wins in the pro stocks. I have actually 358 modified wins back in the CJ CVRA days, and with the old 358 flat top piston motors, and there was a bunch of us running in that class back then, and it was super, super competitive. And I raced against Jack and Clarence and Harry Peak and a lot of big names back then, and it was super competitive. That engine program was probably close to what the crate engines are now in the Sportsman. Maybe with a little more power, but the cars were not quite as elaborate as they are now. I mean, I just helped a friend of mine, Danny Wood, with his vintage mod, which was an '86 Olson, and hell, I had an '89. And I sat in the thing in the infield, and I said, "Oh my God!" All the memories came back. It fit me perfect. I said, "I think I can get this thing around there still."
Yeah.
But
you and Clarence should have went at it, because Clarence was in his. He snuck out in the '61 there. He was telling us last week. So you guys should have.
Oh, I didn't know that he did. I didn't even know he did that. That's awesome. I wondered about that.
Yeah, he was a bad boy. He's not supposed to, but yeah, I don't think Sue was too happy with the whole deal. But
yeah, you know what? I'll bet if he was able to, he could still get one around there. And if Jack was healthy, I guarantee he still could too.
Oh yeah. No, he said this the last week the same. And obviously, you're still doing it. Where did the break? Was it a and you know, with 50 wins, that was a break, because wasn't there a year or a couple that you basically were out of racing, and was it because, I would assume, and there's where I usually get in trouble financially. I mean, like you say, you had a pretty good sponsor when you had, boy, now it leaves me. I know you'll know the furniture guy, or not
Alan Kugler.
Alan Kugler was with it for a while, and then of course the you'll find out when you get my age. The Vermont. Nah, you'll never catch me. Damn. I used to talk to him every week too.
Doc Harriman?
Yes, the Harriman. Yes. Yep. And did it come to the point where it just got so expensive, and you know, sponsors came about? There was that period of time around the late '80s, '90s when the big guy, even on the Super Dirt Series, started to fade away. The Fausts and the Beachies and all these guys, they lost the money. The money went away.
Well, it just didn't go as far. I mean, in 1986, Alan and Karen Kugler purchased my very first brand new modified chassis built by Dexter Dorr and Dick Hicks. Mm-hmm. And I had one, and Donnie Ronca had one, and Matt Waite had one. I think Scott Knowles had one. There wasn't a lot of them out there. Yep. But they were a really well thought out, well built race car, and the head Dexter was able to go on. I think he would have built quite a few more. Mm-hmm. He could have rivaled any of what's out there today and back in those days. Right. And Dexter was such a professional machinist and fabricator, and so is Dick Hicks, and Dick is still going at it. And it was my Alan and Karen bought that first car, and we got the drivetrain all basically straightened out from the old Troyer that I was running, and first time that I ever sat in a car, I believe I won a heat race with it at Malta, and the thing just absolutely flew. And we were always having a hard time keeping good power under the hood and trying not to just throw anything on, in there just to be out there. Mm-hmm. But, however, you could get away with a little bit less back then. We were all on those rock hard Towel City retread tires at the time. Yes. Which were only about, I think they're like $90 a piece back then, and we were on steel wheels. Mm-hmm. Cars were a little heavier. I think our weights were someplace up around 2650. And but it was a great class. It was super competitive, and it gave guys like myself back then, and a lot of young guys at the time, the chance to race against the bigger names, and Clarence and Jack, and like I said, Harry Peak, and then I can go on and on. I raced with Lou Lazzaro and Dave Lape, and ran with all those guys, and it gave us a chance to be competitive with those guys. And there were nights where I was ahead of them, I beat them, and there was nights where they beat me, and I was in the top 5 with them. But that class opened that up to a lot of guys, and it started to evolve. Dirt Motorsports basically took that 358 design that CJ had come up with, and added the roller rockers and the roller lifters and the roller cams, and then it went from that to this and to that, and next thing you know, you needed $40,000 for a competitive motor. Mm-hmm. And, we were still, I had Walmart Kurt Power under my car and was struggling to pay for things. And got down to the point where my wife and I were like, do we pay this month's mortgage or do I put tires on the car?
Yeah.
And she was just as bad as me when it came to that. At some points where we'd be putting tires on the car so we could go race and, worry about keeping the house later.
Right.
So we realized how silly that was becoming, and I had my era there that I ran with Chuck Harriman from 1990, 1991, and part of 92. Loved the Harriman family. They were like my second family.
Yeah, great people.
And they did so much for me and taught me, oh my God, so much about appearance and just the whole the way to keep the sponsors and stuff. And I was already kind of pretty good at that, and then they just added the finishing touches to it, and that's carried right through to today. I mean, I have a PR man. His name is Dan Nelson. He's one of my managers at Curtis Lumber, and he's he's got me where I need to be as far as the professionalism goes, and we send a new monthly newsletter out to every sponsor. We let them know what we did and where we're going and where the car will be, and you have to do those things to be able to create the basically the kitty, so you can go hit the piggy bank and go racing without getting into your paycheck.
Yeah, we talked to Clarence last week about that. Him, of course, being the original lumber wagon, and
that's right.
And he said, of course, Kim has stolen that name from you now, and he said, "Yeah, that's fine." He says, "I'm done." He said, "I'm good with Kim having that." So that's
funny that you mentioned that, because when that all came to be, when Curtis Lumber, Jay Curtis flipped the switch for me and said that he was going to back the car up and see where things went, and Curtis had been approached by a lot of cars and a lot of drivers over the years for sponsorship, and they just never got involved.
Right.
And Jay Curtis is basically a motorhead himself. He loves high performance anything.
Yep.
And he has a collection of cars himself. And when that all went down, we learned then that Curtis Lumber had bought out Perth. Yep. And that was the old Perth Lumber.
Yes.
And so we decided then and there, I said, well, maybe the car should, become the Curtis Lumber wagon. And I said, I got to make a few inquiries on that first. So I got a hold of Clarence's daughter, Amy, and sent her a message. I said, do you think it would be a problem if we were to nickname the car the Curtis Lumber wagon? And she got back to me, and she goes, no, absolutely not. Go for it. Yep. So we were thrilled to death to be able to do it. It's kind of an honor and such, but we really build on that. It's funny because last year we had the car in the Christmas parade in Ballston Spa, and I heard little kids yelling and screaming at the lumber wagon. Yeah. And I said, isn't that something? I said, kids, recognize it as that already. So, that was really cool.
Yeah, it is kind of a neat deal. And you're right. Yeah, and I was going to bring that up with CD, but I know he knew that anyway. But you're right there. It was a few years back now that Curtis purchased the old Perth Lumber, so it's you didn't.
Yep.
You bought the name right along with the with the company.
That's correct. It was part of it.
Yep. Yeah. There was a no compete law there because CD said I was done, so that was good. But so it's been a tremendous career, certainly. So you basically now, I guess we're right in that point. So did you set back? Now, was there actually, am I wrong or just old, a few years that you set out and didn't race?
No, there was a short span there. When I sold I actually sold my modified to Doug Shealy.
Okay.
And everything I had, and Derek McGrew bought a bunch of the stuff I had. Mm-hmm. He was just starting out with Sportsman at the time, and I think I sold him something like 20 wheels I had.
Yep. And
we got rid of all of it, and it was probably... it was one of the worst days of my life when I watched it leave, and I said, oh, my God, and I'm looking at an empty garage and some stuff on the walls hanging there still from the... Mm-hmm. And my son, Scott, was on the verge of graduating high school. He was getting close, and, we had a graduation party and everything, and I said, what are you going to do with your money that you received? And I want to buy a race car.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, boy, here we go, it starts, and I said, well... So we went and we looked at a used street stock that a guy had up in Glens Falls, and he bought it with his money, and I started helping him on that, and we spent that season racing street stocks, and then I said, you're not going to race this class next year. We're going to go to pro stock. So we actually bought a car from that used to be Pete Kimball's that used to race years ago up Devil's Bowl, and it was another old Camaro, but it was a competing pro stock at the time, and refurbed it, made it look like my old GNA car, and that was his idea. He wanted to have the throwback paint job on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent a year, wasting our time on that thing. It was like horrible. He did okay, for first year, but the car was a little evil. I took it out and drove it once and said, oh my God, I don't even know how you're driving this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then that winter, that was 2002, we decided to strip that out and used as many pieces of it as I could, and we built a car from the ground up, which is currently my design that I'm still running, and I call him a Twister chassis. And he went on to get his first wins, and then in 2005 got the track championship at Albany, Saratoga, and Devil's Bowl, and almost got it at Malta too. And they're kind of sort of restarted for me because in 2006. Scott and his teammate Joey Santoro decided to go open wheel racing, and the seat opened up on the 00, which was driven by Joey Santoro.
Mm-hmm.
And I had driven a couple times in the backup car. Lazaro put me in the backup car, and then Joe asked me, and I actually built the car that Joey was driving for Syracuse, and that's the only race he ran on it. And so he asked me if I'd be interested in coming back full time. So I came back racing full time. So I went from probably, I guess it was 1999 or 2000, something like that, right till about 2004 or 5, actually not driving, and then jumped back in both feet.
Okay, so I'm not totally losing my mind then, because
no, not at all.
I was figuring it was 4 or 5 years there we didn't see a. Well, I actually like to say you were there with Scott, but
right, I was in the pit.
Yeah,
I was a crew chief.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, probably someday end up again doing that. Well, we'll see. But
yeah, you're right. Probably will.
How now? So we've got a kind of up to date here now as far as your racing career with the pro side. Was it because of the now obviously? What'd you say? Day 7. When you started back in the pro stocks with your son Scott, there were still open motors and whatever. And now we've come along, and I know you were. I don't know if you were the first or not, but one of the first to go with the crate motor. And again, memory is something.
I didn't really believe in the crate motors, to be honest with you, at first.
Yep.
But I did know that the local engine builders, it was getting out of sight, and I guess it's to the point where, like, with the local engine builders that, we put an investment in a race car engine, and they were really putting a lot of money in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And if they make one mistake and it blows up, it's not really their fault. I mean, we're the ones that are relying on them to do this, and we're the ones taking the gamble.
Right.
Well, the crate motor sort of took that gamble away, because I've hardly ever seen a crate motor just blow up and throw rods and break valves and do crazy things like the open motors used to do.
Right. Yep.
Excuse me. But I've cooked one. I cooked one last year at Utica. The gauge never read that it was hot, and I just kept running lap after lap after lap, and realized it started getting doggy, and I pulled in. We couldn't cool it down, and didn't realize like 3/4 of the radiator were missing off the bottom.
Right.
And so we ended up cooking that one. But you keep good oil in them, and you keep good valve springs, and you keep them clean, and you keep the carburetors tuned, and good spark plugs in them, and they just run and run and run and run.
Yeah, I know. Like you say, I know that you were, like you said, and you right along a lot of the guys that had been successful. Kenny Gates was one of the last ones at Fonda Speedway to go to the crates, and after last year and winning a bunch, or a year before, whenever he started, he said, I can't believe I was that stupid. Then I waited that long.
Yeah.
Because these things, like you say, are bulletproof, and you got to work at it, but you can make them be very competitive, as we see each and every Friday and Saturday and Sunday anywhere. And it seems like it's really brought the class back. And where we're at now, I don't know if it's not a bad thing, because we talked with you last year, with you and Nick Stone and stuff, about some newer things that you guys wanted dirt to let you use, because in the long term here, and so you got your, as I understand it, and again, I'm just a dumb fan watching and listening every once in a while in the pits. You guys, and I'm not saying that you guys did it all on your own, but somebody finally listened, and so you can run the manufactured or whatever front clips now, so you don't have.
Yep. We we were sort of advocates on that.
Yeah.
I was talking to Mike Perotti over 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
extensively about the upgrading the chassis without skyrocketing any kind of pricing or any crazy things like that, and we were talking about basically mimicking the frame everybody uses, which is the late model Camaro, or the
Right.
mid 70s Camaro up to 80, and they would use that front clip as a model. And everybody was kind of in agreement with that. And then last year, Nick had built one over the winter, and we decided to try to pull a mass meeting with as many drivers and owners and fabricators as we could to
Mm-hmm.
Nick Stone's place. And turns out we had over 35, 36 people there, and
Cool.
was a good bunch of drivers there that were interested. And I invited one of the tech inspectors from Albany, Saratoga, John Cummings, to attend it.
Mm-hmm.
Because first of all, we're not like protesting or anything like that against what dirt was, saying that we could do or couldn't do. Basically, what we wanted to do was come to an agreement as to what we would like to see, and get everybody on the same page and everybody to understand exactly what it was. And everybody got nervous and jerky, and oh my God, these are going to become late models. And of course, I brought some big posters that I had printed up of dirt late model with and without a body, and I said, guys, I mean, you cannot insinuate that what we're doing here is going to create this car. And I didn't get a lot of replies to that, because they all looked at it and said, holy crap.
Yeah.
I said, the today's day late model is by far more advanced than the Northeast modifieds are.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they just have more gadgets and things in them to make them handle, and they're just crazy. I'd love to drive one time just to see what it would feel like. But with our class, and I'm still trying to get dirt to get on board with, getting the rule book cleaned up. It's still terrible. I mean, you read that thing and it's all over the place. Mm-hmm. They've got things worded wrong, and it's
right.
just because there's been no one to sit and take the time with the pro stock class and work with them. And that needs to happen soon, because it's a damn good class. And, we have a lot of cars at Albany, Saratoga. I don't know about what everybody else is doing, but, we've had 28-car field there 3 or 4 times this year.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel, but I'm a little concerned to see that, Mike is stepping down after this year. I mean, he was kind of the guy that at least we could talk to, because he knows modified. That's obviously he's going to come back and race now, I guess. But in the pro stocks, he's been in the pits with you guys for years and years and years, so you got an idea what you're doing. So now with him leaving, and I haven't seen any successors, but you could pick up another part-time job.
Well, it's not out of the question.
Okay,
let me tell you that.
Okay.
I've already kind of been approached a little bit on such a thing, and
good. And
as I get closer to probably retiring as a driver, which I don't know when that'll be, but I would be more than glad to step up. I mean, when we had that meeting at Nick's, Nick actually we went in the back room there, and he said, "Look, he said, there's too many people here," because he was the one supposed to do the talking. And so I said, "No problem, I'll do it."
Yeah.
So I stood up on top of the jig with the chassis and gave the whole thing.
Yep.
And lots of great questions, and I answered everything as best as I could. And I reiterated over and over that we are here, so Dirt won't say, "This is what you have to do," and they make us buy some ridiculous part from a chassis company out west. I mean,
yes. Yep.
My biggest issue with that was the cars race here, the cars are built here, the guys that reclip them and fix them are here, so we need to get that part here.
Right.
Or, give us a set of parameters and we can build it ourselves.
Right.
We can either get it built or build it ourselves, as long as everything falls in the right places. There was a lot of questions on, well, if you move this, you move that, you're going to change this, you're going to change that. And I can tell right away that there's a lot of very, very uneducated fabricators out there.
Yeah,
that's wrong in what they were saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what the sport, all got started on. And I'm not sure, I haven't heard the tone yet, but Demetrius, are you with us yet? Okay, he hasn't called in good. 'Cause I have one, and we're kind of working to that point where we're going to have to give your throat a voice anyway, but we're kind of building right into exactly, and I don't want to lead you into this, blind or whatever, but there was an issue, and was that one of the parts that the gray area was that a couple of weeks ago you had an issue, and it shook you guys up pretty good as far as that part goes,
well,
and rightly so. Rightly so. I understand if you can explain just quickly. None of us are technical people here, but what you guys were doing, and like you said, it looked like the gray area that really dirt hadn't spelled it out yet.
Well, let me just say this, and I'm glad you brought it up. And yeah, we got protested after the race for supposedly having what they considered an illegal suspension part. And these are leaf spring cars. Most of them are. There's only maybe one or two that I know of that are playing around with coils. But they're leaf spring cars. These are jig-built chassis. These are not, something that was driven on the road at one point. There are no, areas where the suspension is hanging from any type of a stock piece anymore. I mean, it may be 15, 20 years ago, but no more.
Mm-hmm.
They are a car that's fully adjustable, and we are allowed to have what they call a jacking bolt, one on each corner, one for each coil in the front and one for each leaf spring in the back, and you use that to adjust your ride heights up and down, and of course, your scale weights will change. And that's how you set your car up, basically. You run different spring rates on all four corners, different shock rates. Everybody's got their own little thing they do. My car's built a little bit different than a lot of the cars out there, and I did it on purpose because I wanted something that didn't set up the same way as everybody else's. My car takes a different setup.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's just trying to be outsmart my fellow fabricators and racers.
Right.
We're out there racing. We're trying to beat each other. And we had some cars that were dominating, just totally dominating everything. And some were legit, some weren't. But we built what we have to compete with that and do it by the rule book. And the dirt rule book, like I said, has got so many unclarities in it as to how you build something or what actually they're talking about. And the rule says one jacking bolt per corner, and that's the end of the rule. There is no other rule. There's another foggy rule that talks about something about a stock spring hanger. Well, that's ridiculous. There's not one single pro stock out there with a stock spring hanger.
Right.
So I don't. They were trying to lay on to that rule. So what I had built was basically a jack and bolt for the right rear of the car that I have experimented with for probably 6 years now, mounted in rubber, so it wasn't mounted solid. And we did that to take the torque wrap out of the rear end. Nothing more. It just gives you a truer spring reading when the car's sitting on the scales.
Oh, okay.
And they just, they didn't know what it was. And, I was had people telling me it was a slider, and then I had people saying what? And I said, wait a minute, no. This was a Jack and Bolt. It was a rubber mount. It had 2 shock bumpers on it. The shock bumpers, like you run, the rubber bumpers, had one on top, one on bottom. That was it. And I don't know. Everybody thought it was like some crazy heated up traction control device or whatever. And Dirt now has it, and I've had extensive conversations with Mark Hitchcock about it. And Mark actually thought it was pretty clever and just said that, he kind of said the same thing that the Multitech people said to me, that it's not solid. It's supposed to be mounted solid. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't say that in the rule book anywhere. It just says 4 Jack and Bolts, and that's the end of it.
Right.
I just happen to have one. It's no different than having a rubber motor mount or a rubber transmission mount.
Yep.
If I prefer that, I should be able to do that, I think. But anyways, it wasn't a big deal other than they did take my give us last place points for a 3rd place finish and give us last place money, which I really don't care about.
Right.
But, with this class in the field that we got tough competition this year, every year. And, we're trying to win a championship just like the next guy.
Yep.
And they dropped us from 2nd to 8th in points over that. And, it was a big punch in my stomach because I didn't want to get, 40-year career marred by something like this. I mean, I'm not a cheater. I don't have to cheat to do good at this, I mean, we work hard at it. I got great sponsors and a great crew. And, we build our own stuff, and that's how we succeed.
Yep.
I don't need to cheat anything up to go beat the next guy. I wouldn't even feel right about it. And, when all that went down, it was the following week. I felt terrible. I didn't even want to go racing, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Because I just felt like there was going to be a lot of finger pointing, and people thought I did something crazy. And I walked right down to Kenny Martin, and Kenny and I go way back, and we've always been friends. And I basically said to Kenny, I said, I want to tell you right now, straight up front, this is what it was. I showed him pictures of it. And he goes, and basically he's looking at me like, why would I show you this? And I said, because I respect you, and I don't want you to think I screwed you by cheating in any way. Because I beat him, and he beats me. So. Yep. But we're over it now. It's done. It's over. We got the thing mounted up solid, even though the rule book doesn't tell you that you have to do that.
Yep.
But I guess the penalty came as an unapproved part, and my argument to that was, why would I have to get a part approved that's legal? I don't understand. There was no sense being made out of all of it.
Yeah.
And there and again, it just goes back to the way that rule book is worded.
Right.
I mean, it's awful.
So maybe
10 people will read the same paragraph and get 10 different things out of it.
Right. So maybe in the long, it will looks like it will in the long run get what you were trying to get over. The fact that trying to come up with some new ideas, the fact get the rule book rewritten, so it's pretty plain.
Well, that's got to happen.
Yep.
It definitely has to happen. It's going to make life so much easier for all the guys that build and all the guys that buy pieces and all the tech inspection that has to be done.
Yep.
I mean, to simplify the rule book just puts it in black and white. There is no gray area. And, no, there are definitely places in that rule book that you could play around in the gray area. But that wasn't one of them.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't. And my argument back and forth was, I said, if you guys really wanted the Jack and Bolts to be mounted in a solid way, then there should be some sort of an instruction or a diagram on how to do that. 90% of the pro stocks that are racing out there, they have my sliders on them that I designed, and they have my Jack and Bolt buckets that I designed 12 years ago. And they're running on cars from here to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get any of those approved. And everybody's got them. So
yep.
I just looked at it the same way. And to be honest with you, if it was one of those things that we felt as though we were gaining something from it, I was going to start building them and selling them.
Right.
Or have Nick do it. I mean, so.
Yep.
But big deal. You know, it was done. It was over.
Yep.
I can't blame anybody for trying to do that. You know, we were hurt by it for a couple of weeks there as far as we felt like crap over it. But, a lot of people rallied around behind us and said, don't even worry about it. Just keep going. So that's what we're doing.
And you did. And you picked up that win. And, like you say, what goes around comes around. And you certainly have had some issues on the track this year. We were talking about earlier about the pro stocks have their um, they're the drama queens of Albany, Saratoga. They were,
Oh,
and it was
yep.
back and forth. And it had settled down until this couple of weeks ago, again, and they seem to be having some issues getting lapsed in the book, and that's never a good thing. So I'm thinking Lyle's probably
It was awful.
due for another little chit chat before hopefully get things straightened out. And I don't know. I was going to ask you, what your thoughts on that, but we're running out of time. Demetrius is waiting for us on the other line here, so we get to him and talk about his first career big black win at Fonda here.
Yes, sir.
And give your. But is there anybody? Obviously, we've talked about certainly your family, Curtis Lumber. Who else has made it possible for you guys to be where you're at this year so far?
Well, I've got a bunch of great sponsors. I have Benton's Pet Centers, Frank and Ryan Kramer backing us up. And I have DeWalt Tools, the Nets Corporation FlexVolt behind us, which is crazy to be able to have those guys on board. But they're very excited about their participation. They love the idea of competing at a level of racing that I do. They think it's great because they feel as though the people in those stands are the ones that are buying those FlexVolt tools.
Yep,
So it's a good way to advertise.
Yep.
I have Saratoga Masonry, Tim Webb. He's been like a great driving force behind us. Tim does not come to the races without coming into our trailer, shaking all the guys' hands, including me. He always gives me a little inspiration, and he's great. And whether we do good or we don't do good, he's right there. I've got a bunch of I got some associate sponsors on there. I got Owens Corning Insulation, Owens Corning Products, I should say, Trex Decking. We have Allen Brackett Construction. I have DeSantis Home Remodeling. I know I'm going to forget one. There's more on there. I'm going to forget them.
Yeah. Well.
But Mangino Chevrolet.
Oh yeah.
They're race people through and through, and they help us out. And I got a huge family and friends and my crew, and it's just we have a good time at this, and we have fun with it. We're serious, but we enjoy each other's company, and we don't let this crap get us down when things like happened a couple weeks ago. And like I said, they're the best.
Absolutely, and it was great to see you back in Victory Lane, which was kind of a little, as we say, deja vu. Sometimes things come around, go around. I don't know as you had looked like Josh Krunider might have had that race pretty well covered up until things went sideways. But
super fast.
But
Blue Corning
yep.
has been really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, them guys started on the front end, and
yep.
I did not expect the tangle. I'm not sure what happened, but
yep.
I was a little worried about Ivan and
yes,
Tucky there.
that was
got together. Ivan took an awful tumble there, but he ended up being okay, and I felt bad for Todd Hoffman. I know that was one of his cars. And,
yep.
But
it was good to see.
Yeah, it turned into a wreck fest there for
yep.
a while, and we just kind of got around it all, and that was it. And raced with Brandon and Amy there for a lap or two, and then took the lead and led the whole thing.
Yep. No, it was a great night for everybody. For CD there and all the fans. You probably won in front of the biggest crowd. Or maybe the second biggest crowd. The first night was pretty damn big too. But
yes, it was. Yeah, we were very proud of that.
Yep, it was great. Great.
Happy.
So your sponsors got to be happy. So, and I'm sure we're gonna touch base with you again. But take care of that, whatever that is, and medicate up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in and medicate.
Get straightened out by Friday.
Yeah, we'll be all set.
All right, thanks, Kim.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Yep.
Thanks for the ice cream. We want more.
Okay, I got more.
All right, pal.
All right, take care now.
You.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Yeah, we'll see you now. All right, Kim Dole, our great friends, has been he's been winning races almost as long as we've been doing the show. Now we'll go to a guy who picked up his first career big block win at Fonda Speedway, Demetrius Vrelos. And Demetrius, congratulations. A huge win on Saturday night, not only for you, but certainly for the Nelson family, who has been one of those backbone families at Fonda Speedway for many, many seasons. And not to say yours hasn't, because we go back. Maybe we ought to start there. how did you get involved with racing? Obviously, we go back to your grandfather, who had some of the top race cars back in the day, and we're going back the 50s, 60s, and so you were kind of brought up with that whole deal. Now, did you start in go-karts or?
Well, first of all, thank you, Ed, for having me on. I started in slingshots. They're slingshots by Tobias.
Okay,
most people have seen them at Button Ridge.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I raced them at Accord. I raced them through Pennsylvania for a while, a couple years. I think about 3 years I raced them. Then we moved into 358 at Lebanon Valley. We did that for about 2 or 3 seasons. I think 3 seasons. And then while racing at Malta, the last 2.
Yep.
And this season we switched it up, went to Fonda, and with the Nelsons, which has been obviously a great event. Great season so far, I should say.
Yeah.
We've gotten I think 4 top 10s so far, including that win.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been going good. But I don't know. I guess you can say Fonda is very thick with my family. My grandfather
right.
owned the 111, the 111A that most old timers recognize.
Oh yeah.
That was driven by Pete Corey and Kenny Shoemaker, mostly. I guess I've only heard the stories.
Okay. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, you weren't even thought of at that point, but yes.
Exactly. But that was well before my time, and I guess it brings a great deal of pride to go back and be able to stand in victory lane. So that's pretty crazy for me to think about. It still really hasn't hit me yet that I won at Fonda. I've had a lot of people congratulate me and tell me how hard it is just to win at Fonda. And I have to say, I've now won at all 3 Capital Region racetracks now, Malta, the Valley, and Fonda. And I have to say that one at Fonda is very special to me. And the Nelsons, they've made it very possible. They have some good guidance, and they're just two great guys that have been very, very helpful this year with me.
Yeah, and it brings back the root of the whole reason that we go watch you guys and why you guys race. I say Nelson's, going back to Bill. I'm in Bill's realm of age, so I've been around a while. We did see your grandfather's car and race for many years when I was in high school, I remember, so that's how old I am. But anyway, always great looking race cars. I wasn't really a Kenny Shoemaker fan back in the day as far as that part goes, but everybody was always thrilled, and there was always a buzz going in the stands. We'd get up there early on 6 o'clock or so on Saturday night. The racing used to start at 8, and we used to watch the cars come across the bridge, and that was when the days of the open deal. And I think your grandfather was one of the first to have a 2-car operation, and that was pretty sweet to see 2 cars come in as the team cars, and they always look. So my first question to you, and maybe I'll have to ask your dad or whoever came up with the paint scheme, why didn't you go with Grandpa's old paint scheme with the red and white and all that?
Okay, that's a very good question.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, a tribute scheme is in the works.
Okay,
It
great.
is definitely in the works.
Beautiful.
So I think at some point, maybe this year, maybe for Super Dirt Week, you'll see a throwback.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, as times change, race cars change.
Yeah. Well, the bodies are certainly different. Yeah.
You got to keep up with the times.
Right.
It's not that I don't love the old red and white and the old simple graphics and stuff like that. It's just you got to bring as a young person in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the stands and I see a generation that needs to be brought in.
Right.
And I think
absolutely.
a new generation needs is attracted to flashy things.
Yep.
So along with the part, I went with a lot of neon colors and
Gotcha.
Something that would catch someone's attention.
Right.
Just because I want to be part of the group that brings in the next generation into the sport.
Yeah.
Whether it brings in new drivers or brings in a kid in the stands that says, "Wow, this is awesome. Bring me every week." That's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm so glad to hear you say that, because we've talked to a lot of young guys, because there is a new generation of racers now. We need to get the fans. We're talking with Jesse Mueller a year or two ago, I guess now, and when Jesse first started with the modifieds, and he said he tried to talk. I mean, he was still in high school. That's probably another question I should ask. Are you out of school now? You look awful.
I'm out of school.
Okay.
21.
21. Okay, good. No, you're good. You're good yet. The girls still think you're 18, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
but anyway, so you don't have any classmates anymore, unless you're college, you're done with that or whatever. But Jesse said that was, he tried to talk to his fellow classmates, which he was a senior, I guess that's when we were talking with him a couple years back, that, everybody said, geez, you sit in the car and you go around a circle. It doesn't sound like much. And so he, tried to get a few of them to go, and once in a while he said he ended up getting one or so of his classmates on his team to help him out. But he said it's really tough, because young kids you're a young kid, not 18, but you're that age that we've missed, and we need to get more. I don't know. What's the answer? To me, as an old guy,
I can't tell you the answer. I can't tell you the answer because I don't know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems like a lot of entertainment. Face it, racing's in the entertainment business. This is entertainment.
Yep.
And when people go to a racetrack, you want to be in and out in a few hours.
Right.
And get all your entertainment in and leave. And that's different from the generations prior, where everyone made the day out of going to the races.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
you said, you watched the haulers pull in, and
yep.
It was a great afternoon of everything. Now people want to go, pay their money, see the race, and go home.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hard to do in this sport. And I give every promoter that is able to do it, a tremendous applause to get a show done before 10 o'clock.
Right.
With all the divisions that you have now, and you have to have all the divisions. You can't just go cutting classes, because then, you look at like payout, and you look at how are you going to even get the guys to work their way up to the top, like Rocky Warner did,
mm-hmm.
and to get to that, you need to have all the lower divisions. They can't shorten the night that way. It's just what happens is you're in a tricky spot for any promoter. But I think most of it comes down to it's a time issue, and a lot of people don't want to spend all night at the racetrack.
Yep, that's a very good point.
That's my personal opinion.
No, that's a very good.
What I wish the tracks would do. This is just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we had more autograph nights. I
Yep.
wish we had the drivers in the stands signing autographs. I think that when I was a kid, that used to happen a couple times a year, and I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yep.
Having all the drivers stand, and they used to give out pictures, or the kids would bring their own pictures. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
but it seems like tracks have gotten away from that, and I don't know why, but.
Yeah,
one of those things.
Again, one of the reasons that you were just mentioned, they need to do is they're looking for time. They're trying to. I mean, obviously you can start earlier, and Pete's done a hell of a job, and I think one of the best things that Pete has done for the place is pick up on the museum. The museum itself is excellent.
Oh, yeah,
Dave
awesome.
Lape's doing a great deal there, and I know a lot of the old timers obviously, but to get some of the young kids in there. And I have my own thoughts like you. I think that it's just the generation that the kids don't care about cars anymore. I've had girls that were 23, 24 that worked for me at the shop that didn't have a license and didn't really care.
Yep.
I couldn't wait. The day I was 16, I think I got my father up at 7 o'clock and said, "Let's go to the DMV, and we're gonna get my license." But I would assume that you were the same. But there's not that people just don't. But I said I think you're 100% right. And I know David Lape said a couple years back when he was still racing that was one of the most fun nights he had at the racetrack in probably 15, 20 years is when they started up the autograph night again. He said it was great to get out and meet people because, like you say, nowadays people want to go and go home or go wherever they go and continue on with their night somewhere else.
Yep.
Whereas we used to go over and I thought about that even on Saturday night at Fonda. Pete was done at 10 again for 10:30. And
Yeah, he was really good this year.
Yeah.
Getting out of there early.
and we
And I appreciate it. I mean, I got an hour drive home, which is not
Right.
bad. Like,
Yep.
No.
But
I
it's
think Timmy comes about 2.5.
yeah. So I wasn't surprised to see him gone after his misfortune, but he did stay for the feature. I know, because I know your car owner Bill said that Timmy was one of the first ones to come over and congratulate you on your win.
Oh, he was. He's actually the first driver to
Yep.
congratulate me.
Yep.
Out of many, I have to say, I think almost every driver in the field came up and congratulated me, which felt really pretty onerous.
Yeah, that's a good part about. And to be honest with you, and I'm sure you noticed. I mean, you've been racing now in the Capital District for a couple of seasons. When you first started out at Lebanon Valley and at Malta, there was a lot of, well, because you were so successful and a very aggressive driver, which all the young guys are. You're no different. We go back to Jack Johnson. We were talking with C.D. Koval last week about he and Jack, knocked down every fence at Fonda, for the first couple of years, and that's what guys do. And people forget about that. But you got a bad rap, I think, maybe from a lot of, not necessarily drivers, probably from the crew chief, being an aggressive kid with lots of money that didn't care about, you didn't have respect for the other guys. And I'm not bringing this up because to pick on you, but I know that that's the word was out.
Oh, it's 100% true. That's very true. I've heard it all. It's fine.
Right.
From their own opinion. I'm totally okay with people having their own opinion. I mean,
Sure.
That's their opinion, and
Yep.
you know what?
That's what
they're
it's
more
worth.
than welcome to have that.
Yep.
I just don't like when people don't come and talk to me.
Gotcha.
And form an opinion about me.
Yep.
Before they talk to me.
I got
You know, in the shop, I do have 3 cars. I have 3 cars, 2 small blocks and a big block of my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in the night, every day after I work with my dad, him and I are the only 2 employees at the business.
Yep.
We own a business that installs septic systems.
Oh, okay.
And so that him and I are the only employees. After we work all day, him and I are usually the only ones working on the race car till late at night, getting ready to go racing. And it's what people don't see is all the hard work that a small team does have.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
because we have
Yes.
cars
Yeah.
doesn't mean we don't put in the work to have nice cars.
Right.
And it's just because the way someone races, racing is built on rivalries, and everyone knows that. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Racing has rivalries, and if you don't have drama involved with racing, that's half of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
If you go toward, I hate to bring up NASCAR, but let's just say you watch a NASCAR race. Half the time when you watch NASCAR, you look for who's the rivals on the racetrack. Are they racing each other and how they race each other? It's the same thing with any type of racing.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I don't want to have rivals like that, but that's how it forms, And I'm sure everyone's like, oh well, every Kenny Tremont fan doesn't like me. That's fine.
Yeah.
I haven't, I honestly have no unsettled business with Mr. Tremont or
Right.
anything.
Yep.
I've been fine with him the last year, and we've been
Yes.
good.
Yes.
And,
Yes. Yep.
It's one of those things where you don't have to like each other necessarily, but you just don't have to. Be that person with each other. So,
Right. Well, like CD, that was one of his most famous sayings. We're not here to make friends. and the next guy coming up here around the corner in a few minutes, Brett Hearn, the same way. We always joke with Brett about there's some drivers like Tim McCready and a few of these other guys who. Guys say, oh, he's a great guy. You go out and have a beer with you afterwards. Not that Timmy does that anymore because he's just so damn busy trying to get those late models to travel all over the country. But a lot of people said, Brett's not a guy that you go out and have a beer with. He's getting a little bit easier on that now, I think, as the years go on. But
Brett has laid back, I think,
yes.
over the years, over the last couple of years.
Yeah, but
I can say where I am in the business. I look at racing as a business. I show up to the racetrack.
Yep.
As a serious point.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, as an old guy, having these pre-described thoughts about you, I never saw it because most of the incidents, I guess, happened at Lebanon Valley. There are a couple of Malta, maybe here and there, but when you came to Fonda this year, and in fact, we were talking with Bill, and I'm not saying anything out of. I know Bill. I asked both Bill and Eric to give us a call and join you, but I guess they haven't. I know Bill's in Vermont doing his third job, which I didn't realize he had one. But anyway, he said that was the thing that people had told him when they got hooked up with you guys over the winter months. Okay, Brett, you joining us?
No, it's Eric Nelson.
Oh, there it is, Eric. Okay, I couldn't tell the number. I was on the other side here. Yes, now we have Brett. So now we got a whole bunch here. Okay. Thanks.
How we doing?
Thanks, Brett. We're talking with one of your fellow competitors, Demetrius Drelos, who picked up his first career win at Fonda on Saturday night.
Fantastic.
And yeah, Brett just said, "What's happening? How you doing, Demetrius?" Okay. Yeah, we were just talking about you mellowing, Brett, over the years here. I don't know if you'll probably agree with that or not, but
mellowing?
Mellowing, yes, mellowing. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe a little bit.
Yes. No, I mean, not to say that you were an ogre, but I would just say that you obviously you have a great fan following, so you know how to treat your fans and are friends with them. But some of the fellow drivers over the years, he was kind of offish or whatever, and they say that about the best. So I mean, I know that doesn't bother you. Demetrius is hoping that when he gets along in his career like yours, that like he said, he doesn't really care what people's opinions are as long as they come and express them to him personally. And I think you're kind of on the same boat with that. We're here to do a job, and we get it done and do it very well. But and his car owner, Eric Nelson, is another one of those families who's been around racing, certainly Fonda Speedway, all his life, and his father's before him. I mean, his father's still with us, but he's still doing a good job. So it was a great win for them to win at Fonda, which is not easy. It was easy for you for quite a few years. It's gotten harder as things have gone. But it's great to have you all on here together. And I just want to thank Demetrius, and I'm not cutting you off here, but we had playing this thing with Brett 2 weeks ago, and we still haven't got to it. There's a whole lot of questions. There's a whole lot of questions that I want to ask you and Eric. And Eric, we'll have to do this again. We'll see what we got lined up for next week, because there's a big story there with you guys getting together, and how everybody thought, well, at least according to your dad, that this kid's not going to work, and he's going to cause problems. And I'm just an old fan of Fonda for 50 years. I've been super impressed. The kid is smart. I mean, obviously the win on Saturday night was a smart win, and he hasn't caused any hassle with anybody. And like he said, a lot of the competitors came over and congratulated him after, so they have respect for him. They have respect for him as well. So it's working out really, really well.
Absolutely. I mean, we'd heard the stories and obviously read some of the derogatory comments written on Dirt Track Digest by some of the Fremont fans.
Right.
And you know what? That's exactly what we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a young, aggressive guy, and to be honest with you, Demetrius reminded me a lot of Bobby.
Yep.
Very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
A charge to the front. If you had to use the Nerf bar, you used it. And that's exactly what we were looking for. I wanted somebody who was going to take the chance if the hole was there, but know enough to lay back if it wasn't.
Right.
And
and I don't think he's been a Nerf bar yet.
No,
the front one.
No,
So,
total respect.
Yep. Right.
Total respect for
Yep.
our equipment,
Yep.
and we absolutely love them. And the more I work with him, the more he does remind me of Bobby. He knows exactly what change he wants to make when he gets out of the car. He knows what it's going to do, what it's going to affect, and I have been nothing but impressed with him from day one.
Yep. Well,
and the Drelloses are a great family. They're great people, and we just think he's doing a tremendous job.
Yep.
And we are totally ecstatic.
Well, as a fan of Fonda, they've been a great addition there, and we're glad to see there. And like I said, we will continue this later because there are many more questions I want to catch. It, but you know, Brett's got a show to sell here, and that's what we're gonna do.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. But thanks,
Thank you, Ed.
Yes, thanks so much, and congratulations again. And we'll see you over at Albany Saratoga on Friday night, and right back at Fonda, and we'll have some goodies for you.
All right, guys. Good luck with the big show, Brett.
Thank you, Mal. See you soon. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, now quickly we'll switch over, and sorry about that. We tend, well, as you know, we tend to run.
Yeah, that's great. They're very excited. I can see that. That's awesome.
It is. I mean, because we need young guys. You know, because guys like yourself, you know, we sooner or later we're gonna have to look down the road and see who else is coming along. And I know that's the whole part of your deal, getting in the promotion business. And coming up, that's it, next Tuesday already, right?
It's coming up quick.
Yes, and it's something you work on all year. And I think we asked you this last year, but I don't know if we get a more extended answer or whatever. But what do you do as a promoter, as a racer, yourself as a guy who makes a living at doing this? Try to do in something like this to make this not just a Super Dirt Series event that guys like me have seen probably 500 times.
Right. Well, look, I mean, having, traveled the tour for, decades, I've seen the good, the bad,
yep.
the ugly, and the easy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I just really felt like, we were doing, and the promoters were allowing it to happen by doing the same thing, the same regiment over and over again, not trying to make it better, not trying to make it different, not trying to make it stand out, and basically, swinging the gates open and hurry everybody in and hurry everybody out and count your money at the end of the night and go on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt it was really flat. So I wanted to bring what I thought was going to be a better experience. And, on a regular weekend basis, there's nothing wrong with these shows. I mean, they know you got a lot of classes, like a lot of cars there,
yep.
a lot of participants, and they have to run these things off really quick. There's not a lot of time for pageantry. It's really a show that's based a lot on back gate as much as it is on front gate.
Right.
And the sway has been more towards the back gate at most of these tracks because
mm-hmm.
I feel like the track owners are more operators than they are promoters. I mean, the day of the promoter, the Ron Company and the Jerry Freed and some of these guys that were famous, Vince the Carey,
mm-hmm.
Glenn, and all these guys. Well, these guys are real promoters, I mean, these guys had vision, and I just feel like we just lacked that a little bit. So, I wanted to do this show and bring it up to a different level and make it more of a experience as well as a great race. And Albany Saratoga offers the place, the venue, to have a great race. We have great racing every single Friday night. So we know it's going to be a great race. Now, how do we make it stand out amongst the rest of, not only the rest of the Friday nights, but amongst the other series races? Well, first of all, you got to pay a little bit more. So thank you to Recovery Sports Grill and Halmar and VP and
mm-hmm.
and Fox and all these people who get behind me year in and year out to allow me to pay $10,000 to win this race and make it a little bit something special, something guys can shoot for. And I think that the track itself is one that the other racers really look forward to racing at because the racing is good. It's a fun track to drive at. It's things happen quick, but it's a very fair track. It's a thinker's track, driver's track. So I think everyone likes to go race there. So that's a given. So it's up to me to, just make it that little bit better experience for the fan that comes in there. They can meet the drivers, they can see different things. We have a couple different things going on. We can bring the DJ in, the sound system, and just make it a better experience. And I think I've done that. I think I finally did that last year. Last year's really the first time I really felt like I got to where I really wanted to be in my 9th try. So I think that my 10th try should be every bit as good.
Well, I think as an old fan, that and you probably I don't know if you have to agree with me, but like you said, you've been around for decades as well, that usually the first is the best. I know we talked to Dave Lape when he and Andy Fusco did their Lapco deal, and they had that huge race at Can-Am, and made god awful lot of money, and at least at those times they thought they did, and then did it again, and not quite so much. And we saw the big race along the Thunder along the Mohawk, which was huge the first week, and the Jack a couple of years ago. But with that all said, the first is usually the best, and then as David said, about the 3rd or 4th year, you figure, well, this is not fun anymore. Here we are.
Very, very true. And I think on that note,
yes.
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
On that note, I think my event has gone the opposite way.
Right. That's what I
think.
Okay, yep.
The first year we did that Malta, we didn't really know if we were going to get enough cars there. It was kind of a weird time, and guys, a lot of the guys then ran small blocks, and they weren't going to fall into the rules package of a Super Dirt Series race, so we were kind of counting those guys out.
Right.
And there's a lot of question marks, but I think that now having done this, I think we've really got some legs under this thing, and we've built something that people really look forward to going and seeing the next time around.
And kind of like we were supposed to get to you last week, and we ran out of time. Kenny Wallace has been promised now. This is the 3rd year, right? And he's
this is either the 3rd or 4th time.
Right. But it looks like he's going to. Yes. But he has a car now. It's all painted up. Willie Akmodi, I'm sure you worked with him somewhere along the line in Halmar to get this car for Kenny.
Yeah, actually, technically, Willie's not with Halmar anymore.
Oh, okay.
So this is a project that him and his wife are doing on their own.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And that car is actually going to come to my shop on Thursday for me to do the final setup and get it ready for racing.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, obviously,
that's the plan.
This is Now, this is probably a stupid question because everybody knows Kenny Wallace. He's a great guy, a great personality. You see him on TV and everything else, and it'd be great. We see him down at Volusia every year, running the ump mods, or whatever you want to call them. They're the modifieds of the rest of the country, other than Northeast, I guess. But
right.
Why pick Kenny? Obviously he wants to race and he has raced these cars once or twice before. I think I heard somewhere, maybe it was one of your visits with you in the past, that he actually came to you and said, I'd really like to get a chance to get in one of these things.
Right. Well, he's actually driven one,
right.
maybe once or twice,
yeah.
But it's been a while.
Yep.
And I think the deal between Kenny and I is more of a racer's respect, even though we've never
gotcha.
really. We haven't raced each other since we
right.
raced Busch cars,
yep.
Way back when.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But I have respect for him as a racer and a commentator and a person, and I think that's reciprocating. And then we also have common interest in a sponsor with sponsorship with Cedar Peaks.
Okay.
And so that kind of binds us together a little
yep.
bit. So the thing is really, he's really doing it for me for a favor and out of respect for me as a racer. So
Great.
I think that's really
cool.
where the bottom line is.
Yeah, and hopefully, I said, I'm sure you'll have a piece now. This is probably a question some of the other racers will ask, so I'll ask anyway. Will he be a guaranteed starter?
Actually, no.
Okay.
The way that the Super Dirt Series rules are outlined doesn't really allow for that. So,
okay, I got you.
I don't think that'll be the case. I think he's going to have to qualify it legit.
Right.
So,
and I don't personally. I don't think
if that changes, I'd be surprised, but
okay.
I would say no as of right now.
Okay. All right. But so he's one of the big deals, and the autograph session is turned, like you say, every year it seems to get better and bigger. And, it's not that that's not done, I guess, in some other track. Now, is it this year, or because this is a separate deal that you sponsor yourself or promote yourself along with dirt? A lot of the dirt tracks, and in fact, I asked, boy, it's terrible to be old. Carter, yeah, one of the big shots at dirt. I can't think.
Driver?
No, Carter. What's his first name? Brian. Yeah, is it Brian? Yeah.
Brian Carter, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Which it turns out, certainly at Oswego, which is, we understand, a totally different deal, and at Volusia, which he explained is a totally different deal as well, that I didn't understand why they didn't have the pit pass as part of the general admission at all Super Dirt Series events, and he said it's because we want to make, their shows actually down to Charlotte and Oswego and Volusia special. Is that something you ever considered with your deal? I'm just from a fan's part. Well, it's great. You pay the flat fee or whatever.
Yeah. The only issue at Albany Saratoga is the pits are very congested already.
Yes, right.
So if you've got this spectator traffic all night long, it could be a safety issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That would be the only thing that would really, be a consideration. Whereas the other tracks where you're talking about, where World Racing Group does that, they lend themselves a little bit better to spectator traffic during the event.
Yeah, it's well, like you said, those venues. Maybe Oswego's not quite so huge as some of the others, but certainly a lot more room in the pits. I understand. Okay, yep, that totally makes sense, because, as I understand, the insurance deal is it doesn't matter that much. That's all part of the whole deal. Anybody can go in there. But, okay, I know. I was just a thought, because I said that is a big draw for those three venues that you talk about, and because I have a seat in the grandstand. I've never sat in the one at Charlotte, so I don't even know where it is. But,
it's awesome.
And
it's awesome.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we got Kenny Wallace, who will be there again, weather permitting. But
and for anybody who doesn't really know Kenny Wallace, the guy that you see on TV, that's not an act. That's
really
him.
Yes.
Right. It's amazing. I've never seen a guy like this before in my life.
Yeah.
But he's really fun, really embracing and fun to talk to, and I'm sure that the people that line up to see him are going to really enjoy his company. So it's something to look forward to.
Right. And, of course, the fans can, I think you instituted this last year, pick was it Quick 5 or Fast 5? Or what?
Yeah, actually, we do that Pick the Quick contest. John Snyder runs that for me.
Okay.
And, that's, one of the reason why I did that was because, one of the complaints that you might or might not get at one of these events, and it's really the bottom line is it's really the only fair way to run a race of this caliber. But
yes,
people aren't crazy. Some people aren't crazy about time trials. So what I'm doing is I'm putting up $1,000 to get people engaged in time trials. Mm-hmm. And the way that works is if you could pick the top 5 fastest qualifiers, overall qualifiers, you win $1,000, and if there's more than one winner, we'll split it. But it's difficult to win it. But if you got 5 players in the game, you're going to watch time trials a little bit more interested. Kind of like it,
Yep.
And there's no cost to do it. It's $1,000 to win it, flat out. So we encourage people as they come in the gate get their entry form at the ticket window and go over to the table and enter your 5 drivers, and if you win, they'll call you back and come over and get your money.
And I do have that here. And we kid this with you, and that's probably why we haven't caught up with you last couple of years here for whatever reason. Well, we tried to do this the night before, and that just doesn't work. But you finally got to win your own thing once so far. I'm not running it in. I'm really not. But I that's how hard it is to to win this thing, and at your
Absolutely.
now that it's at your home track, and it seems like right now that Mr. Shepard has got the place figured out.
I think he's got every place figured
Well,
out
it's
right now.
it's
So.
well, you've been there, you've done that. You know, it's you get those year or 2 or 3 years. I mean, not that he certainly doesn't deserve it. He works as hard as anybody else, and I know he and Peter Britton we've had on the show talked different times, and they've I don't want to put age on you, but they kind of use you as their mentor, not a mentor, but as a guy that I want to be like. You know, I can do this, and I want to make a living, and I want to do it like Brett. And they're
Right.
and they're doing it. So that's
Right. Absolutely.
and that's, you know, it's got to make you feel. I mean, obviously you don't like the beat, but that, you know, guys look up to you, that transpire they want to do.
Well, you know, we
what you
feel
do.
like as a team that we've,
Yep.
you know, we've set the bar
Right.
somewhere.
Yep.
You know, the bar for professionalism and
Mhm.
the way that we do business and the way that we race and the way that we've been able to race for this, you know, longer period of time and make ends meet and, you know, acquire enough sponsorship and enough help to make it work. And, you know, so I think, you know, I think we, in the big picture, we've set a good example for racers of the future, you know, who aspire to, you know, be able to do
Right.
what Matt Shepard's doing right now and make a decent living at it.
Mhm.
You know, it happens. So, and it's definitely doable, but it takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I think most people don't have a clue of what you know. I'll be other than the fact, you know, wasting a half hour here with us. You have better things to do certainly on a Monday night. Everybody wonders what, you know, a professional race guy. Well, you know, goes in the shop in the morning and, you know, works till 5 or 6 o'clock and goes and has supper and, you know, whatever. Nah, not really. It doesn't work.
Not really. Not really.
Not really.
Never.
You know, never. Yeah.
Never. Never.
It's a long, and now the off season is not off very long. Anyway, getting back to Albany Saratoga, I got to bust on you a little bit because I chatted with you for a few seconds on Tuesday night, and after the run that you had, well, the season you've had at Albany Saratoga, and I'm probably going to get a few people mad at me, but so be it. This is just my observation as a poor old race fan. You've had the best car at Albany Saratoga week in and week out since opening night. Now, obviously, you didn't win a lot. You won one so far, and counting.
Right.
And I know that that doesn't make you feel good inside to have the best car and not win, but it happens. That's the way, and that's the way the competition over there makes for a great show. But
Right.
on Tuesday night, you were coming. I said, you know, Brett should actually win this guy. Obviously, you know. Shepard starting up towards front was going to be a big obstacle for everybody. But you
Right.
started to come, got to a certain point, and I don't know, again, as being an old fan, it looked like you and Eric Rudolph got together pretty good at one point during the race, and you seemed to drop back at that point. Now, am I making stuff up in my head, or did something, because then you dropped back and, you know, ended up, you know, I'm sure disappointed.
Don't really. I don't have a strong explanation for it other than the outside lane kind of faded a little bit at the end. But
Okay.
you know, at one point I had gotten so bad in the last 10 laps I thought I was getting a flat tire.
Okay. Yep.
That's how bad the traction went away. So
Huh.
you know, I mean, as we speak right now, there's no solid explanation
Okay.
as to why the car went away so bad. But and especially since it had been so good the Friday night before.
Right.
So, but you know, maybe we'll tune it up and keep working on it, and hopefully it won't happen again.
Right. Well, you know, say at 900 and some counting, obviously, it's, well, like one old race car driver, a very famous one, said years ago, you know, one year he won 40-some features, and yeah, but I lost 70 that year, so yeah, that's part of the whole deal.
Right.
And you guys, you know, again, we're not picking on you here or on the negative, but you've been struggling on the series for the last couple of seasons, and obviously you've changed pretty much everything but yourself on the team, as far as, you know, obviously still running your brother's cars, but are we any closer to figuring it out. I know you.
Well, we're only
Yeah, let's not. I mean, you finished third in points.
two races
right.
in the series,
Right?
this year,
Yeah.
and and I can't say that we qualified good in both of them.
Yep.
We've been in the draw, but we Friday night we broke a intake rocker, fourth lap of the race. And that negated a good finish Friday night,
Right.
and after we qualified good, and then Wheat Sport we qualified good and kind of faded a little bit, running a new design that we're kind of still learning a little bit, and so I don't really know if I'm any closer yet, but I hope I am. It's hard to say.
It's not for lack of trying. I know that, and I know you
Absolutely
know that. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
But it happens to everybody, and you've been up and down, probably more up than a lot of people. I always got a kick out of Scott Bloomquist. We visited him a couple of years ago down at Volusia, and I said, why do you think? And he's the first to would come out, and I don't know if you've ever got to that point where you brag up. Well, I have 900 wins. I'm pretty damn good. But he says the thing that makes me the most proud and that I can be a little bit conceited is the fact that I've done this for 20 or 30 years. He says you have different guys, Lanigan or Davenport or all these guys have a good year or two, and then they fade and they're a 10th place car, and then maybe they come back, maybe they don't. He said, I'm there. In fact, he proved it again. 2 weeks ago, he won the Dream again for the 6th time. The first one back in '80. Yeah, so he said,
very, very, very true.
I guess I got to kind of put you in that same category. You've been doing this for a little bit, and it's it'll probably be argued till we're all in the ground a long time who is the GOAT, but you're getting a lot of nominations over the last couple of years.
I think it's pretty cool to be at this late in my career and still be relevant.
Yeah, right.
that's what I think is the biggest thing.
Right.
I may not be dominant, but we're still very relevant.
Oh yeah.
I got a great point lead at both of my home tracks right now, and we've been really consistent. We've got 3 wins going there, and like you said, we need to get better on the series. At least get back to where we're a regular on the podium. If we can't win them, and then build from there.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people, like I say, people like to talk or whatever. And say, "Well, yeah, Brett's getting over to hell." I said, if you ever question the want to of Brett Hearn, you really need to go to Albany, Saratoga on Friday night and watch pretty much every Friday night. If you think that this veteran has lost it, no, it's and you put on a tremendous. I mean, you and Kenny a couple of weeks ago, that's why we go to the races. If you could, and I know you as a racer and as a promoter would love to see that same thing happen, possibly with you winning on next Tuesday night. Because I know you said to me, I think maybe it was the first or second big show that you had at Albany, Saratoga. You did not win. I can't remember, was it third or where was it, fourth maybe? But you actually got out of the race car, and you as a professional wants to win every race. When you get out and you don't win, you're usually not, I'm not saying pleasant, but you usually don't have a smile on your face. You got out and said, that was a damn good race, and I'm happy. So I think that's what this race means to you now. At this point in your career, you want to put a show on, and if it's a great race and you don't win, it's still pretty damn good. If you do win, well, it's even better. But
right.
You feel a little. Are you having a little more fun, if that's the proper word? I know you did when you were a kid back in the Pepsi 20 days. And
well, it's a different kind of fun. I mean, at this point, this year I'm really enjoying working with Mark Flack and Tim Emmerich and those guys, and what they're doing for me on Friday nights has really made it kind of a relaxing kind of a little bit more relaxing. Even though I still want to win, I still got that killer instinct, but it's taking a lot of pressure off me from the organizational side, and it's allowed my guys out of my shop to really be better prepared on Saturday nights. So it's a good. I think Brian and I have put a good formula together in terms of people and spreading the responsibilities out so that it's not all on me or all on one other person. And I think that's going to pay dividends for us as the season progresses. I really do.
Yeah, and it's obvious, like I said, and there will be people that disagree with both of us probably, but probably week in and week out the best. Well, obviously prepared, because if you're not prepared, you don't go fast. Car at Albany, Saratoga. And I know everybody else feels as though they work just as hard and whatever, but the proof is in the pudding, and when you come from the back to the front every week, it's there. Now, just to change gear just a little bit, is there anything more about the big show that we missed?
Well, we did.
Yes,
we did
go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
First and foremost, I don't know how many Gary Balouf fans we have out there, but he's just come out with a new book, and at the same time they've taken the Batmobile out of the museum about a year ago and completely refurbished it to its original state, and it is so awesome. Anybody that appreciates workmanship and creativity and knows anything about Syracuse back in 1980 can really appreciate this car. Gary's going to bring that car up and have it under a tent there for people to see, and he's also going to be bringing books, personally signing books to anyone that buys a book. And I have to be honest with you, I picked my book up from him about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know if it's just my era or what I already knew, but it is a really, really killer, interesting book. And for anybody that's into the history of dirt modifieds, it talks about the Batmobile and how it came about and all this really cool stuff, and then all the trouble he got into and how scary that was, and it's just really super interesting. And I'm only really a few chapters in, and I'm just loving the book. So he'll be there with the book and be there to meet people and greet people, and anybody that's into the history of modified school.
And Gary's great. I had a chance to have a long chat with him at the IMPA convention a couple of winters ago, and he's, well, like I say, with his issues now with the cancer, which is much better, and he is much better now than he was a couple of years back. He was pretty weak and going, but he's back. But talking with him 2 years ago, he's still got, I think he could probably win some races yet if you put him in a race car. He's got yet, like you have, still, and because he said, I don't think I'm saying anything out of text here, but when he was, he's working actually with Halmar and doing different things, he said that was, and I won't mention any names, but he said that's the problem. He said there's some guys there that don't want to win, and I want to win, and we're going to win if they let me do what I want to do. It's a true racer all the way through. But like you say, I grew up with him. I mean, I remember. Did you race? Yeah, you must have raced Nazareth against him when he had the A number 9, the pink car.
No, that was actually when he was in the number 9. I was in his fan club.
Okay, all right, okay, yeah, and I can see that. I can see
just before I started. Yeah.
Okay, all right, right, and
I was in his fan club watching him from the stands at Middletown.
Yep, and like I say, chatting with him, like you said, he's still, and he remembers all his stuff, and there was that period, like you said, when he got in trouble. I was a great fan of his when I was down there, because there was this wild guy from Florida, came all the way up north here to beat up on everybody, and him and of course his good friend Whip. Now Whip Mulligan, you must have known Whip somewhat.
The first ride that I was hired to drive was a Whip Mulligan chassis. That was with Pete Van Eierstein, and that was a Whip Mulligan chassis, and that's what, at the time, that's what Ferriello Brothers were running as well. Right,
and Whip was a hell of a fabricator. He was...
Yeah, I met him a couple times. Wasn't real close with him, but I did meet him a couple times, and I did run one of his cars. Yeah, won a lot of races with his car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I say, and Gary had mentioned, I say a couple of years ago when we had chatted with him, he said, I made a lot of mistakes. He said it's amazing that I'm able to to come out of it like I had. And he said but he says probably looking back, you probably would have made the same mistakes again, because that's the way racers are. Anything to make a race car go faster.
Well, I think the really cool thing in my mind, as I'm reading this book, the chapter that he starts to talk about, how he started to smuggle.
Yep.
Was the most interesting thing was, how he related all the assets that made him a good race car driver and a good preparer to race were the same things that made him a good in that business.
Yeah.
But,
Right. Yeah.
Scary stuff, man.
Oh, yeah.
Really scary stuff that happened when they were out in the water and stuff. And it's just really, really interesting, man.
Yes, it is.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And I always said too, that, a good racer like yourself could be successful if you put as much effort in anything as you do in racing.
And that's the way he's always approached everything. So, and he brings that to light in a lot of the stories he tells.
Cool. Well,
which I thought was really cool.
That's I've got to get that to add to my collection as well, because it's like you said, maybe it's because it's from my ear as well. But Gary Ballou is certainly. And he's great to talk. I mean, he's like Kenny. He's outgoing, and you can ask him a question. He's going to tell you flat out, whether he agrees with you or doesn't or whatever. But Gary's a great guy. No, between the two of them, you really need to take Friday off and get over there as early. Well, they're going to let you in at 4, I think, or something. So
no, or Tuesday, not Friday.
Or no, not Friday. I mean. You're right. Take Tuesday off.
Yeah,
that's right.
I have to make that clear.
Right. Yes.
Tuesday the 26th.
Sorry about that.
We've got that. And the other thing that we've got going on with the show is Eric Santana is a friend of mine, also a great DJ. We brought his sound system in for the first time last year, and it was a huge hit. People just loved it. We had people dancing in the stands. We had no downtime in between races, and he just fills it up, and he just makes everybody happy and just creates a great atmosphere, and he did a great job with no rehearsing. So now he knows what he's up against. I think we should be even better this year with that, and he's coming back to do it again, and I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, and probably have to tone it down just a tad, or else we'll be all at the Town of Malta meeting house again before. But no, it was super. Well, actually, I kidded Lyle. I said, well, Brett shamed you and Howie into buying new speakers, so they have a new sound system over at Albany Cemetery, which works. Certainly not as good as yours, but it works a lot better than the old one. So the fans,
it sounds great.
Yes, the fans appreciate that's a lot. So thank you for that for doing that. But with that said, I'm gonna let you go, Brett, because I know you got a lot more important things to do.
I think I pretty much covered everything. Okay. I mean, the only thing that I didn't talk about was that. We do have reserve seating, and that will be for the top 2 rows. And, if you want to get a reserve seat, you don't have to worry about, going out to the midway there and going to meet Gary and Kenny and losing your seat. You can go back to your seat.
Right.
It's going to be there. So it's kind of, a lot of people are really appreciative of that. You can do that. You can buy those reserve tickets and reserve your seat at thebigshow10.com.
Okay.
And that's really the best way to do it. Just go on there. It's really easy. And you can buy your tickets online and then pick them up at the VIP or the reserve seat tent when you get there. And your name will be on the envelope, and away you go.
Cool. And like I said, we always tend to try to not suck you in, but talk for as long as we can with you. But I know you got to go. We were talking a little bit about that the other night about the resurrection of your old home ground, Orange County, and Chris Larson's doing a tremendous job there, revitalizing, and I have, because I've gone, usually to the eastern states. It's about the only time I get down there anymore. But as you said, people don't realize how close we were to losing that totally as a race facility, and Chris has really turned things around, and I kind of kiddingly said something about, well, maybe somewhere down the road when you're not racing anymore, could you possibly see in the far future? I know this is asking a question you probably can't answer or won't want to anyway, but we see, Brett Hearn being a promoter back at his old stomping grounds in a beautiful show place. It kind of sounds like your place.
Well, I've always said that I would always consider that if the opportunity was correct in the right place and the right situation. And what Chris is doing at Orange County is going to be amazing. And it's going to be every bit of a year project before he gets it the way he wants it.
Right.
But they're doing an awful lot in the
Yep.
meantime, in between racing weekends, that people don't even get to see. You know,
Mhm.
and I'm staying close to the situation. And Chris and I have had discussions, and
Cool.
you know, we'll see how it plays out.
Well, I did talk to one, and I know you as a promoter or as a racer for all these years down at Orange County. Would really appreciate it. I know you've heard this from other racers, but I talked to a fellow who's a competitor, weekly competitor down there, and he said after they tore the track up and remilled it, it went from which we all know, a 3-tire a night racetrack to a 1-tire a night. And that's
Right.
that's big for the racers.
Well, that's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, tires being that they're close to $200 a piece now.
Right.
You can just do the math and see how much that's going to save guys. And
Right.
you know, the problem down there was, I mean, you got some races where, for instance, the Dale race in October, where every single car blew a rear tire in a
Yep.
50-lap race,
Right. Yes.
which is ridiculous.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. When
Right.
you're running the hardest tire they make,
Yeah.
and you can't go more than 40 laps on a tire,
Right.
There's an issue.
Yes.
And I think that taking some of the grip and some of the abrasiveness out of the track will make the racing better there. I think it already has.
Yep.
I've watched some video. I've been in conversation with some racers that get their opinion, and it looks like they've got the track finally smoothed out after 3 weeks. And I think everyone that I've talked to knows it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
But at least there's something being done and
Yes.
tried.
Right.
And, you know, and I think we're all appreciative of that. We all know Orange County's been on life support for about 10 years.
Right.
And we're lucky that it's still around for Chris to save.
Yes. And hopefully he'll keep that saving grace going for some other racetracks. And you know, right now you're a pretty lucky racer yourself to be racing at 2 of the premier tracks, certainly in New York. Well, in the Northeast. Well, around how he's.
Well,
been
I think we have to get back to where, you know, all the tracks are building each other. You know, they're
Yes.
all building a bigger base, and
Yep.
the only way that's going to happen is by having good, healthy tracks, and more than one. You need to have several good,
Right.
healthy tracks where people are intrigued by being participants. I mean, you know, we look at like the sportsman car counts have continued to rise year after year, but if we had a couple more healthy tracks that ran those type of cars, we'd see even a bigger base of competitors to draw from. So I think that's a big part of it.
right, and
I
that's
don't think that the sport could be healthy with one good track.
And that's been my big question for all you guys on the series this year, or Big Block guys. And I will definitely. This is it. I'm going to let you go after this one. Dirt is, well, they don't seem to be, like you said, promotion. And it was funny because we were talking to C.D. Cole last week on the show, and that's what he said. He's noticed the biggest difference is, he says, promoters are pretty much the same words you just said. Promoters aren't promoting anymore like they used to back in the day. So that is an issue. But the cost of big blocks, and I'm sure you get blamed for it because you probably get blamed for everything else that costs money in the big blocks. You were one of the first ones to come out with the 18-degree head motors, and everybody's got to do that to keep up with you. And so now we got $40,000 to $50,000 big blocks that pretty much price themselves out of the realm of all these sportsman guys and all these other guys that, like you said, would want to move up. So, and more guys we keep talking to, modified guys, and we had Fuller on, and we've talked to Britton, and we've talked to Bobby Vera and a few of these other guys. Kenny Tremont. Kenny's been driving. He drives everything every weekend. The big block, the small block, and the 602.
Right.
Kenny feels, and he did it last week, came from 25th with a 602 to win Devil's Bowl. Now, obviously, you're the haves, and you've earned it 100%. There's no taking that away from you whatsoever. You have it. You have all this stuff, and supposedly you're the guys that are saying, no, we don't want to get rid of these, $50,000 motors because we got them, and I totally understand that as a businessman or as a person, period. But and obviously you're getting towards the end of your career, but would Brett Hearn be willing? Say they went on a series, the money stayed the same, which should go up, but stayed the same. would you feel comfortable now? You raced, well, I don't know, at least one 602 race and won it. So you have raced them, and you know a little bit what they feel like, and maybe it goes back to your the go-kart days or whatever. I don't know compared to what you got now. If Dirt came in and said, "Okay, you guys got 2 years, and then we're going to go to the W16. Everybody's going to have to run a W16." Do you think that would be the end for the series, or?
Well, you know, I have mixed emotions about that whole thing.
Yeah.
I understand absolutely it has to be stepping stone classes that are affordable. And we've seen that the 602 crate class has been very successful.
Yep.
Is it the most unbelievable class to watch from the stands? Probably not.
Right.
But it's a great way for guys to start racing.
Yep.
So, in my mind, you know, a modified was named a modified because it was supposed to be a modified. It wasn't supposed to be a restricted class. It was supposed to be a modified.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, you know, they've corralled a lot of the rules, maybe out of necessity.
Right.
Pertaining to the car, just to keep the costs under control. You know, and if you could come up with an alternative big block that could run with a high-powered, you know, all-out, no-holds-barred big block, that would be competitive. If somebody could figure that out, that'd be great. For you know, have an alternate engine that's less, and they've been trying, and with not much success for many years.
Right.
Now, you know, there's another one in the pipeline that's going to be out soon, and we'll see what happens with that. But the question is, how do you do that? And I'm not sure if we have a solution. But I think that right now, obviously the crate class is a great starter class. The 358 class is a nice stepping stone, where you know you've got some pretty decent power, and that's a great stepping stone. And then you know at that point, if you're good enough, someone will probably buy you an engine and make you a big block driver. And like you know what's happened with Stewart or any of these other big block guys. I mean, is it a class that the average guy that works 6 days a week and can afford to do by himself? Probably not.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair.
You got to need a lot of help to do it.
Right.
And I think that's the way it is. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Oh, yeah. And it's exactly the words that Peter Britton would say.
Right. You got to find a way to make it so that it's reasonable, fairly reasonable. But remember, it's still a modified. And the novelty of the class nationwide is that it's a big block modified, not a UMP modified, not an IMCA modified. It's a big block modified. That's what makes it unique, and so that's what I think it's important to keep it that way.
Okay, so you don't think that the W16, if everybody was on them, would produce a kind of...
W16 is a great alternative.
Okay.
It's a great alternative, but when I mean, that's a great alternative. It's a competitive engine.
Right. If you race them, so you know.
It's so light.
Yes.
And I used one at Oswego, finished fourth. I used it at Eastern States, almost won Eastern States last year.
Yep.
It's a great alternative.
Okay.
And if you made that class all run W16s, you'd save everybody a little bit of money. At least initially, anyway.
Gotcha.
But is it going to save the class? I don't think so. I mean, let's face it. Howard at Lebanon Valley is paying $700 to win. If you win the race, you can't pay your tire bill, and yet you got a full field of cars.
Yes.
So what does that tell you?
Yes. Yes. Racers are.
I don't know what it tells me. Yes. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It tells me there's nobody there trying to race that class for money.
Right. Yeah, and that's unfortunately that's that's pretty much everything. Even including really, like Tim McCready said, if Super Dirt Series went to paying $10,000 to win at every series race like yours does. He would think more about coming back and leaving. He said he loves the modifieds, but you can't make a living doing it. So I mean, like you say, it is still a very high professional class, which is what it was supposed to be, and hopefully it will continue to have enough guys that are willing to keep it going, and like you said, doing more things, and making the shows. Yeah. Would you like? I mean, you always talked about not racing Saturdays, which definitely hasn't ever transpired. But you were always a proponent of having these Super Dirt Series. Actually, this year we have more Saturday and Friday night races than ever.
Actually this year, and really hasn't changed much of anything really. But I mean, the guys that are running the series are not locked into running any home tracks or any home track
right.
points
That's
yet.
yes.
I don't see anybody sitting on the sideline waiting for the next series race.
Gotcha.
If they have an option.
If
they have an option, they're racing.
Yeah. Well, maybe not you, but everybody needs seat time, and probably even you too. I mean,
well, that's the thing. That's exactly right.
Right.
And, I think we all do. I mean, we all have to stay sharp, and we all have to stay on our setups, and completely keep searching for more speed, and that's really the only way you can stay competitive on the series, by doing that.
Right.
And that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort.
Yeah, but it seems like you got the right idea, and again, promoters aren't promoting. And I know we talked to Howie about this, and because I asked him, I said, how can these late model guys, run all over the country, run for 25,000 to win, 50,000 some places, 100 if you're and these little places that are, a lot of those places aren't any bigger than Malta. I said, how can the promoter?
Right. How can that be, right?
How can a promoter do that? And you guys here can't do that. He says, Ed, I'll tell you. He says those tracks, most of them, that is their show for the year. That's they get the most people and everything else. But he said all of them get sponsor money. That's where that $50,000 comes from. It doesn't come from
the probably fannies. Pretty fair to say. I think I'm not in my case. Having gone out and get this, to get a couple sponsors to be able to, add to the purse voluntarily. By the way,
yes.
There's no obligation to do that.
Right.
But that's what a promoter does.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You're 100% right. That's what the local promoters, more of them, need to do is say, okay, let's find somebody that's got. Well, right now it's $6,000. It's coming from dirt or whatever.
Let's put all the let's put all the pieces together. I mean, that's all I've ever done in my career. I mean, I put pieces together, put people together, went out and found ways to buy stuff I didn't have money to buy.
Right. Yep.
That's what I've always done.
Yep.
That's how I've survived.
Yep. And there just needs to be more. Well, like my old favorite driver, Darrell Waltrip, and people are saying, "Oh my God!" But anyway, he used to say, "It's all about the passion. How much passion you got for it? How bad do you want it?
How bad do you want it?"
That separates the Brett Hearns from the guys who finish 5th or 6th every week. It just that's a difference. That's a difference.
Right. Yep.
And a lot of hard work.
Totally.
All right, great. Always great to talk. Sorry we took so long, and thanks. And perfect weather. We got our fingers crossed. We've had enough crap weather just to last us the rest of the summer anyway. So
I know. Well, as of right now, it's 82 and nothing but sun. And damn it, I think every year I saw that about a week away, and then things turn bad. But hopefully it won't. Hopefully it won't turn bad this time around.
Right, and there is. Well, we won't even talk about the rain date because I know you'll have one in the back of the pocket somewhere.
Yeah, the rain date is actually for anybody that's buying a reserve ticket, it's worried about.
Yeah,
the rain
that's
date.
right. Yeah,
it's July. It's actually July 11th. It's already set up.
Okay.
But we aren't going to need it.
Right.
So don't worry about it.
That's right. All right, Brent. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on Friday night.
Me.
Take care now. All right.
Take care.
Take care. The jersey's at Brett Hearn, winner of 900 plus, and always great to talk to Brett. And we will see you next week. Keep it between the boards. Get out and support your local racetrack, and Glen Ridge. I did talk to promoter Mike Pearl the other night, and we will get him on the show here. I got a whole list of people. We're gonna have to run a couple nights a week. Yeah, the wife would love that to catch up with all these people. But congratulations to all the winners this past week, and we'll try to get a few more on for you next week. And next week, of course, will be the night before the big show, which we just talked about, and looking forward to an extra catching up on all these rainouts here with these midweek shows. See you next week, and we will definitely get Demetrius and the Nelson crew back. Maybe we'll get them up in the studio here. They just are not too far down the road here, and chat about how that marriage has really turned out to be a great thing for the Nelsons and for Demetrius and for Fonda. So we'll be back next week right here. Hopefully around 7. That's when we'll get here. Good night.